had written a book. Cool.
Which book?
The one that shows up on your, when you sign on your video, on your emails.
Because I've done some for state archives.
Oh.
They were curriculum books. This one was on runaway slaves in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks. I do a lot of talks about the book, and I actually have enough to do a second volume of the book, but it took so long to do that one that I've been holding off, but we'll see. I hope everybody's well. Everyone well?
Yes.
I hope I want to apologize. I took a long walk before, and I'm so cold. I had to take a shower and I'm in my pajamas. So that's why you see my frozen face there. So I'm bringing the phone into bed with me and just listening and stuff. But is it time? I didn't know if it was time. Oh, other people
It
are here.
is.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just wait to see. A few more people are probably joining.
I want to know what Yanni's name is.
Yes, Yoni, do you want to update your name?
That is my Chinese name.
And how do we pronounce that?
是怀哲.
Elijah. Okay.
Okay.
It was given to me when I was studying in China.
Neat.
Sure.
Does it mean our friend from Canada? What does it mean?
It's actually each character has a meaning, and you just combine them in different ways depending on who it is. So it's supposed to be close to Schwartz. Shuhuaizhe is actually a very famous physician, a Western physician in China's history. Had I known that, I would have opposed, but.
All right. Well, I think we're here. I'm not sure if Rich is going to be able to join us tonight. He said, oh, and here comes Rose. He is stuck dealing with some work in preparation for the storm that's coming.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just got an email from Kenji that makes me think that he'll be joining us.
Kenji's here.
Where is he?
He's right there. He's on the bottom there.
I got to change my view. Sorry there, Kenji.
All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:33. I did not receive any public comments. So the first item of business is the approval of minutes for November 11th. Did anyone have any additions or changes to suggest? Nope.
I did not. I'll offer a motion to approve the minutes from the November Environmental Conservation Board meeting.
I second. Oh, I think Yanni seconded, so I'll.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Great. Okay. Before we move on, I just I want to make a few updates to the agenda. I forgot to add the Henry W. Du Bois letter to the agenda, so maybe we can do that after the ZBA appeal. And also, Susan, I think you were alluding to giving an update on Monday's planning board meeting.
Yeah, I sent it. I did send it to everyone. I hope you got it. I sent it kind of quickly. There wasn't much. I didn't send the attachment. I thought I did.
Double check.
Yeah, I saw it, Susan. I thought it looked good.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
It was probably the fastest planning board meeting they said they've had. So,
yeah. Okay.
And I went and I drove by there to see where it was as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for that.
One thing to note, they are looking for alternates to the planning board.
Okay.
Right, I put that on top of the notes there.
Any other changes to the agenda before we move on? Oh, and I guess maybe after the climate smart update, we can also have just an update on the chair situation. I'll give you an update.
And Ingrid, I don't see a place to talk about the annual report you put together.
Oh, yeah, that's a big omission. Yeah, let's do that first in discussion. Okay, thank you.
Good.
A busy
One other
time.
thing is to confirm your meeting date for next year, because there seems to be some confusion at town hall.
Yes, let's do that with the chair update.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I sent the link to the December 9th ZBA meeting. So I know some of you have watched that, and I guess the situation right now is that we're really waiting on a clarification from Stacy about her interpretation, because her original interpretation was understood, I think, by all parties as that no waiver would be required, because she determined the trail was not inconsistent or contrary to the vegetated buffer. But it seems that she wishes to clarify that. And in the exchange at that meeting, she and her attorney, George Lithgow, both indicated that a waiver would still be necessary from the planning board, but the planning board would need more information in a complete site plan to determine whether that waiver would be needed. So that's kind of where things are at right now. And there were some other legal questions raised by the Trans Hudson attorney. And so I'm looking into responding to some of, perhaps in another letter prior to the next ZBA meeting, which will be on January 13th. But I think we'll need to have Stacy's interpretation before preparing that letter, and we might not have that until January 6th or 7th. I just to note, I was unaware that Trans Hudson would be present and presenting at that meeting, although I had requested to be notified if anything was submitted or if they were going to be at the meeting. So I was completely unaware that about that.
Had you been informed that Stacy was going to have an attorney there?
No, I wasn't informed of that, although I had heard just through the grapevine that was going to happen.
Have they been having discussions with the planning board and with the town board behind our backs, like not in public?
Not planning board, no.
The developer?
Yeah. Or their
I can't
attorneys?
speak to that. I can't speak to that.
It's behind. Is that part of the regular process?
No.
I just also wasn't I think part of what was coming out there also was, what is the EnCB? What is our role? Who are we? And
Yeah.
I think that's what I kept hearing from the lawyer, like, who are you to be making these comments? And I think we need somehow to clarify that is our role, to look at these situations when they affect the environment. So maybe that's something we need to address specifically. What is our role if that's not our role?
That's right. We are people who are going to be breathing, whose children and grandchildren are going to be breathing the air that you allowed to come close to that trail from the thruway. That's why we have the buffer. And who else is there to defend it?
The Department of State is pretty clear that any municipal board or agency of a municipality has standing to bring an appeal before the Zoning Board of Appeals to appeal the interpretation of the code enforcement officer. So I think her entire argument there is there's no foundation to it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's.
We should write a letter then saying that we have to defend the ENCB and you. You were blindsided.
Yeah, the ZBA's attorney should have made that clear.
Mm-hmm.
And Ingrid, you were so amazing. I mean, just the calmness that you held and the clarity of your points was just spot on. And kudos to you. It would have been hard for me not to get crazy, agitated. I know. You didn't. You were very
I felt exactly the same, because there were times I wanted to scream or throw something, just say like, stop. Like, she just was very angry. She just, I guess she was being a really good lawyer for her client, turning things around and just, but I do think, Ingrid, you held your control and were so calm during that. It was just inspiring to see how well you dealt with being kind of put down the way she was doing that to you. So I second.
Yeah, really. We're lucky it wasn't me there.
So Ingrid, that's what I wanted to say too. I watched a good portion of it, and I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks all of you. It wasn't fun.
So are we going to write a letter to rebut that? Because this, I don't know if everybody got this, but Kitty Brown did some research on that firm, and they were also questioning the whole seeker process with the state. They don't want to have to go through that anymore. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's interested in working with me on that letter, maybe we can do that offline and circulate it. I think, I don't think a lengthy letter is necessary at this point. I think there was a lot of information thrown out and perhaps too much at that meeting. And so, yeah, I'd like to be very focused in whatever additional remarks we make.
The good thing, Ingrid, is neither the ZBA attorney nor Stacy's attorney took that point up and said you had no standing. I mean, they just ignored the whole thing. So I think, it was a lot of noise. It can create confusion and emotional response, and it didn't work.
I agree with Amanda. It seems to me that there's no need for a letter, since it would be rebutting an argument that was not taken up.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, though, that they, and my interpretation is what I heard their lawyer saying to you, Trans Hudson's lawyer, was, who is the ENCB? Like, why are you saying this? Like, what is your position to be saying this, that you have no standing in telling us this? That's how I interpreted. Am I wrong in that?
She was telling us we had no role in interpreting the zoning. And that's not what we're at. That's not our role. It's not our role to interpret the zoning. We are asking the ZBA to interpret the zoning.
Right.
So again, I think her argument just didn't make sense. And if you listen carefully to what she was saying, a lot of it didn't make any sense. So I don't know.
I think she was trying to rattle you, and she didn't. She was not successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So there were, her argument about, that the zoning, the strictly construed argument, again, I guess that's commonly brought up in court cases, challenging zoning, but it by no means means that zoning can never be interpreted. Then why would you have, so again, I don't think that argument applies here. because we're asking for an interpretation. And that's what the ZBA is there for. One thing that anyway, I don't want to go in more into details here. I think if anybody would like to help me with crafting a final response, that would be great. And we can circulate it with the board the week before that meeting.
I'm sorry, a final response to what? A response to what?
To Stacy's clarification of her interpretation of whatever
We don't have it yet.
we don't
Right.
have that yet.
So right now, there's no point in writing a letter. We need
No.
what comes in.
Yeah, we need to wait until that's provided, and it probably won't be provided till sometime in early January.
Yeah.
But you said that legally, by law, we can question what we're questioning, right?
Yes.
I don't think they know that. And there should be a letter of clarification saying, this is our charge and we're within our rights to question this. I mean, that's our job. Because she was questioning whether or not we even should have been involved. Or you.
I think the fact that neither George Lithgow nor Joe Moriello responded to that means that we don't need to respond to it either.
If they had felt that it was a valid point, or they would have brought it up themselves, and they would have said, kind of like the Supreme Court did, there's no justification or standing for this, happening. So, but that's not what they said. They just ignored it. They just passed over it as, lawyer blah blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you write a letter about it in response to their comment, you're just bringing it back up and you're giving them standing. I think the right thing to do is to ignore it unless the ZBA decides that they want to take it on, in which case, yes, we should write something. But until the zoning board does it, we're just highlighting something that should be ignored.
I agree.
So, yeah, I guess, I don't know if there are any other thoughts about that. Some people have said, well, we should have our own we should be represented by an attorney as well. And I personally don't, given all the other legal expenses, I think the town is, looking at with regards to this particular project, I don't think this is the best place necessarily for that money to be spent. So I would prefer not to, and I just prefer to stay out of whatever arguments may ensue over how much money may be spent on.
So one thing to keep in mind is that, in fact, if the EnCB's request for appeal to the interpretation goes forward and the ZBA finds that reinterpretation is appropriate, then that does throw this back into a waiver situation, because then it says that this buffer is not allowed to have any kind of man-made structure in it, and then the applicant can request a waiver because it's a design standard of the planning board. And if the planning board votes that unanimously, then that waiver takes place. If the planning board does not, then it goes to the town board for their decision on the waiver. So it still puts things out there. I suppose if they denied the reinterpretation and said, no, a path could go in there, then the planning board could still say at their discretion whether they feel that path is what it should look like or something, because we still don't have detailed, we don't have a site plan. We have a one-page concept that doesn't have all the details. And then when we got it, we could say, oh, that we didn't know you meant that, or whatever. These are all just in the realms of possibility, but probability not so much, but just to let you guys know what the process could look like.
Yeah. it will kick this conversation down the road to the planning board, who will have to look at a more detailed site plan and potentially, and then raise the question of the waiver there. So it's not an ideal situation by any means, and learning more about why the framing of this zoning as a design guideline, I think, was not the greatest choice. But
See, that's something I think is a problem, because area bulk requirements are pretty specific. They have to do with heights and setbacks and things like that. And this is something else. So I'm not sure where it would normally fit. So I guess the thinking was designed. It's the fact that the waiver option got included with the design standards. That's, I guess, the issues that otherwise it would totally be up to the planning board's discretion and there would be no wavering of this stuff. But that's how it ended up.
yeah. Right. Well, let's move on. Ted shared a draft response to the Henry W. Du Bois bike path project. And did any of you have any feedback on that? I'm not sure if anyone else looked at the plans, which are on that website.
I don't think I saw that letter. When was it sent?
Maybe like a week ago.
Huh.
Try to dig
In
it
the
out
middle of my
and share it
drainage.
again.
I might have lost it. Sorry, Ted.
That's right.
I think I missed it too. Ted,
I'm
can you
gonna
give it?
I'm gonna
give us
forward
the
it.
gist?
Yeah. Ted, why don't you summarize it?
Yeah, me too.
Or should
I
we put it
mean-
up on the screen? Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I sent it out, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I got it. It's a good letter.
Okay.
I'm going to share
Yes,
it right
I will. Are you going to share it?
Yeah.
Okay. In addition, this past weekend, I walked it, and I want to add a little bit of a clarification, but I'm looking for where to put it in right now. But it's a letter in response to the design plans they've got out there. I tried to touch on most of the things I've heard talked about in the media or in these meetings, and include them, one way or the other in there. The last thing I added was the speed limit misunderstanding that the mayor and town supervisor put a letter to the editor in last week's paper. I included that clarification also.
Yeah, so I think this is good. This, acknowledges the benefits of the project. We're acknowledging the effort to avoid tree removal. I was actually pretty surprised by how few trees would need to be removed according to the plan. We're recommending that those trees be replaced by, more than one tree replacement per tree removed. Just see the last page here.
So can I just ask, if you're, if you're going to be adding trees, but taking away property to build this path, it does. So we're going to be telling the residents that they're going to have trees planted on their property.
There's no
Uh,
property being taken away from people here.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, it was talked about as perhaps, but the plan they have right now, as I see it and understand it, there's no planned additional right of way. They're working entirely within the existing right of way. Now, I left the language open there to, if they would plant the trees, still within the right of way, but stay out of the way, or if they had a willing property owner, they could put the trees on, on private property, but it would have to be with the private property's property owner's permission. But I thought it was important that we say that the trees need to be planted along the route and not in some, park area somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of the trees that would need to be removed are part of that. Is it Meadowbrook? What's the name of that apartment complex?
Yeah, the
Yeah, or the
far, well, not the far, but the east
I
end.
think it's called Meadowbrook, isn't it? Isn't it called?
yeah.
Yeah.
So just so you know, CWASP has proposed that perhaps the path could go inward onto Meadowbrook's property around those trees, and that they would work with the town to get a conservation, easement with that property owner. I don't know where that'll go, but so those big ones that are right along there to not go, to go behind them onto where they've got a grassy area that's just open space. So who knows?
Yeah, I like that idea because those are mature trees that we might be able to keep, and it would actually lend some interest to the trail to have it wind its way through around those trees, if that can be done.
Mhm.
Could we encourage the Alta Planning to consult with the property owners to help let them have some say into what trees get planted next to their property?
I presume that if any tree would be planted there, they would be consulting with the property owner, but
Okay.
perhaps we could add some kind of phrase like the EnCB encourages the replacement of any removed trees with climate-ready species in a ratio greater than 1.0, and maybe at the end of that, comma, in consultation with the adjacent property owner, or
Yeah, that sounds good. Don't leave them out.
All right, I have that jotted down. I can include that.
I've just added it.
Oh,
There.
It's magical.
Okay. Any other
Nice.
changes?
yeah. The one thing I wanted to add is when we talk about less than 12 trees, I think that's true in what they call out, but along the pathway there's some smaller trees and brush that aren't called out on the plans to be removed, that would be removed because of where the trail is going. So I wanted to make it clear that we didn't miss that, or that was known. So I think maybe we just say too many existing mature trees in the existing public right of way, less than 12 mature trees. There's some younger or smaller trees and some hedges and
Okay.
bushes that do get removed. But I do think it's a pretty good job that they did of minimizing the tree loss throughout the route.
Yeah. Okay, so I added in that word mature less than 1 dozen mature trees. I'm guessing that they use the 12-inch diameter as their cutoff in that inventory.
When do we expect this to happen? Do we know?
Don't know what the timeline is.
I want to say like 22, isn't it? It's pretty.
I think that question came up at a meeting, a couple weeks ago, and the way Neil described it is going to be several months before they heard responses from the government agencies that have to respond to this also. So it was, mid next year before I think he said he expected any kind of activity, what the next step was. And it was several months before the next step.
Okay.
I think the last sentence of the letter is really important because one of the things that I think has created negativity is people making assumptions when there was kind of silence and not much coming out of the planning group. And so even if there's no change and they're waiting, to keep the public apprised. Otherwise, I think people have erroneously thought something was happening that wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
Their website says that construction will start in fall of 2021.
Okay.
All right. Any additional changes, or would someone like to make a motion to approve this letter?
I'll move that we accept this letter and send it. Ted did a good job.
Thank you, Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Ingrid helped quite a bit with much more content than what I started with.
Yeah,
So
she always did with me too when I had to write something.
I'll second it if no one else has.
Okay, let me just get out of the screen share. All in favor? Want to raise your hand?
Okay, here we go again.
Speak up. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Ted, for preparing this and for looking closely at the plans and all the studies.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. For January, there are, Amanda, I'm assuming planning board meetings are continuing on the 2nd and 4th Mondays.
Yes, the only possibility we might have that won't is in October, when we would fall on Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, and so that one might change to October 4th, but everything else is, we've already seen the calendar came out today, so yep.
Okay. So in January, this segues a little into the CEA update, but one of those January meetings may have a special presentation about CEAs and discussion. Amanda, I'm not sure whether that was brought up with the planning board in the meeting.
It wasn't, and the way it was left, I mean, what our town board liaison asked is that all the planning board members watch the video from the meeting where you made the presentation and where you had the guest speaker, and then appear at a forthcoming town board meeting for further discussion. And it had originally been proposed that that would be this Thursday, but the planning board chair, I think, prefers sometime in January. So the meeting isn't definite, but I don't know that I haven't seen or heard anything more about discussion at planning board versus just going to this discussion with the town. I don't know.
I think that the effort will be made to bring this discussion to the planning board, to one of those meetings in January. But I'm not sure which meeting it will be at. So I will definitely be at one of those meetings depending on which one that is. And I can tell you more about that shortly. But in the meantime, maybe we can get volunteers for January 11th and 25th, and then I'm kind of assuming maybe more of you might want to listen in and participate in that discussion when it happens. But in the meantime, could we have a volunteer for the 11th? Yoni? Great. Okay, I'll take the 25th, assuming this isn't on the 11th. I have the feeling it's more likely to be on the 25th.
I'm very surprised that we haven't had either Homeland Towers or Trans-Hudson come back. But I mean, Trans-Hudson's waiting just for the whole waiver thing, but Homeland Towers, the shot clock is ticking. They did the balloon test. We haven't seen their report. The other thing they were asked to do was to have a habitat biologist review the area for the impact on habitat and trees if there was alternatives, and we have not seen anything back from that. But so we already had our last meeting of December of this year, so I don't know what, but I think the shot clock ends sometime in February, so I think we're going to have to get something back from them pretty quickly, because then they still have to go to the ZBA for the use variance and get that completed. And there's supposed to be a whole environmental impact final EIS completed. So yeah, I think things are going to get crazy in January.
Okay, thanks for that update. Okay, so let's talk now about the annual report. I put that together, and let me see, I can pull it up. All right. Someone noted 2 little typos. I just fixed one of them. I have to go back and remember where the other one was. This is just a summary. I go back through all the minutes from the year to check on these things. And so these were the projects we looked at this year.
Does COVID get capped?
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I spelled seeker wrong on my thing.
The whole COVID is capped.
The whole COVID. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
I will redo my notes because I spelled seeker S-E-C-O-R instead of S-E-Q-R. Sorry.
It's all right.
I thought there was a Q. Okay.
Okay. So I provided the summary of our appeal here. And yeah, it was a very busy year. It's a lot of stuff here. Yeah, the tree permits. So I did add this sentence that we felt clearer standards for permit issuance are desirable for implementing the tree law. That's something that came up in our meetings. I don't know if we want to include that though. We haven't really come up with any. We could just say that the EnCB plans to review the tree law in 2021, and for or we could leave it out altogether because we haven't done anything yet.
I like the idea of proposing that in 2021, we would take a closer look at it. I mean, it's a pretty low bar just to say we'll take a
Yeah.
closer look at it.
Okay.
I also think it's good that they should know that we are attentive to this so that they're not surprised when we come to them and say, hey, we need some more guidance with this.
Yeah. Okay. Is this something like this, just as simple as we, that we plan to review the tree law in 2021? For
Take out the
possible,
N. Oh, N. Take out the N, right?
the tree law in 2021.
N or 4. Okay.
Um,
Can we look at other people's tree laws? There must be some.
the tree law in 2021 for possible recommended updates, or
Yeah. I think maybe we could say plans to research and review the tree law.
You can say benchmark.
benchmark.
The vaguer it is, the easier it is on us.
Just say review. I don't know. Okay. I did mention that we began working on a fact sheet about the wetlands law.
Yeah, I'm still planning to finish that.
Okay, I think it's okay to mention it. And here we have, the CEA proposal and public hearing. The Community Preservation Fund.
Oh, there's another COVID on the public
Yeah.
hearing.
Yes. Okay. Oh, and Amanda, you gave me this number, which is 70 hours of in-kind volunteer match.
Ingrid, don't you want to say something about, wait, did I miss that up there about the CPP, about the results?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like the, so we could just, we could say, yeah. I didn't want to say anything about the campaign because like we weren't as a board, involved in the campaign, but I guess it would be appropriate to say that, to just say the result, right?
Yeah, you could just say the EnCB is happy to have, have been part of the, the results,
The final count was over 74% of voters in the 2020 in the referendum. Was it November 3rd?
It was November.
Yeah, it was on the ballot.
Yeah,
November 3rd.
really over 70, because the last I heard was 72.7. Oh, wow.
When the absentee ballots were counted, it went up to over 74.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, looks like someone is trying to get it. Julie. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I could elaborate on this a little bit more if you think.
Well, I don't know, they haven't named yet the members of the fund, who are gonna, I don't know if you think EnCB members will be supporting this going forward in the future, whatever. I mean, it's hard to say. This is this year's report, not next year's.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna just keep this simple. Yeah, any other last minute things? Yep.
Under additional activities, if you could, by my notes, we talked about the MS4 annual report 3 times. The meeting beforehand, that the next meeting I would present it, and then I presented it, and then at the meeting after that, I mentioned that the public comment period was still available. If we could consider having it mentioned here, that'll help us with the points for this year's MS4 annual report.
Okay, how should I refer to that?
Under additional activities, if it could be the last bullet point, the town's MS4 annual report was mentioned on 3 of the meetings and discussed in detail at, what was the February meeting? Opportunities for questions, comments.
And discussed at the February meeting?
I think it was the February meeting.
I can go back and double check that, or if you want to.
Actually, I'm certain it was the March meeting. So if you could say it was the March meeting. The MS4 is for the stormwater report for the town.
And I have one deletion. I'll go up by my name, just above additional activities there. The Green Business Challenge Ambassador was not active this year at all, so I would include that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Great.
Instead of saying the annual report was mentioned, do you want to say it was reviewed, or, I mean, mentioned sounds kind of like, I mean, I don't know, use a better word.
Yeah, discussed. How about discussed? Mentioned doesn't give it much.
Right, but I mean, I don't want to overstate either. I mean, one of the meetings I gave the presentation, the PowerPoint, the whole thing. But the meeting before, I just said, we'll talk about it next time. And at the meeting afterwards, I said, comment period is still open a couple more days. I mean, so, that's.
Can we just say that it was discussed at the March meeting, or?
Yeah.
Just discussed. Mentioned is a little bit light.
Okay.
If there was follow-up at other meetings, you can just make that point with some follow-up at subsequent meetings or something like that.
That'd be nice.
I don't know how important it is for Ted to have more than one meeting in there.
It was a lean year for public outreach activities in general, so this will help.
Yeah. With follow-up. The following meeting was in May. We didn't have an April meeting.
You can just say subsequent meetings, at several subsequent meetings or something like that.
Subsequent meeting.
That's good. I appreciate it.
Okay. Great.
I'll move to approve the annual report as Ingrid has presented it to us.
Did someone second that?
I second it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Hi, Julie. Sorry about that. You're muted.
That's okay, and I'm sorry that I'm late. Hope that's all right.
That's okay.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
None of us had to travel.
That's right. Is it snowing out there yet?
Oh, yeah. Are you serious?
Really? I haven't even, yeah, can't see anything
Yeah,
outside right now.
I just went by our house.
Usually an inch.
Wow. Nice. Okay. All right. So moving on, the critical environmental areas proposal. On December 3rd, Michael Dupre, who's the chairman of the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board, came and presented to the town board to talk about his board's experience with implementing CEAs and how they've been of value to Hyde Park. And I think his presentation was very effective. And the town board seems to be very interested in moving forward with the proposal. And I think that the main challenge at this point is that they would like to reach some kind of consensus with the planning board. And so we would like, as I said, we would like, Michael has been very, he was very generous to, with his time to come and talk to the town board in the first place. He has generously offered that he would also meet with the planning board, and he is, I think, tentatively available for either of those dates in January, though I think there's a possible conflict on the 11th for him. Emily Svensson, who is an attorney who is also involved with the Hyde Park CEAs and used to serve on their town board, has also offered to speak to the town board about CEAs and give her perspective as both someone who worked on the proposal and was on the town board and is an environmental attorney. There was some discussion about her presenting to the town board this week tomorrow. She was willing to do that, but I think the town board, I spoke with David and Neil, and I think the feeling was that at this point, the town board doesn't necessarily need to hear more. Again, that it's, they want to engage the planning board. And so we're postponing, we're holding off on inviting Emily for tomorrow. And it's possible she might jointly present with Michael to the planning board, but we're not entirely sure yet. And maybe that's not necessary. So that's kind of where we're at. I would like to also open discussion about possibility of scaling back our proposal slightly at this point to try and make it increase the likelihood of passage of these areas. And what I would like to propose is that we focus on the 4 CEAs that are form this corridor through our town, including the Ridge, the Wallkill-Kleinkill corridor, the Clearwater Woods CEA, and the Plutarch Woods and Wetlands. And
What does that leave out?
that would leave out the Swartikill Wetlands and the Stony Kill Woods, which is the area south of 299 on the west side of the river, which was the one that we kind of added in later on in our proposal. And the reason for dropping the Swartikill Wetlands would primarily be that the wetlands is protected under, as a state wetland and under our town law.
Right.
There are wetland buffers are protected on that wetland, at least 100-foot buffer. And there is currently very little development potential relatively in the areas that we proposed for designation.
Ingrid, I just want to jump in and say that I thought it was really brilliant to bring Michael. I totally agree with you that it was really eye-opening and extremely helpful for, at least for those who would like to see this, go forward and pass. And so it really did change the way people thought. And he was wonderful. If anyone wants to see that meeting, you know, I urge you to listen to him speak if you weren't there. Really, just a real game changer, and I just think it was excellent of you to invite him. And you know, you're amazing to not give up and you know hold firm. And I agree. The one thing that I'll say is that it feels like with a board, a sticking point for the board. They definitely, I totally agree that they want to now try to reach a consensus with the planning board, you know, to a degree, if possible. But the one thing that I think is a sticking point for some, and it sort of sticks in people's minds more like, is this idea of the percentage of the town, you know, it's sort of, it's hard to unhear that, what the percentage of the town that this covers. And can you tell me the percentage again? Is it 40 or?
I don't know the number offhand. I haven't reviewed it lately.
So either way, whatever it was mentioned, whether it was, you know, accurate or not. You don't think it came from you, or it didn't come from you?
Well, the number is, it is close to, it's like in the 40s. It's 40,
Yeah.
somewhere between 45 and 50%.
Right. So I think 46 is what I remember. But so if there was a little discussion about how isn't that wonderful that we are so lucky to live somewhere where that is the case, and we all do care, you know, and I definitely support this. And if that's a possibility, I think I probably would agree to, if that's a possibility of holding off on other places to help that number get down. I think that would help everybody, including the planning board, that percentage down. And I would say, you know, we probably don't want to talk up that percentage, but if someone wants to know, or they figure it out, then that's, you know, something that will happen. And so,
Yoni? Yeah.
When I listened to the presentation, the thing that really caught my attention was the percentage of land that they had set aside as CEAs. It was much lower than what we were looking at. And when he made that statement, I think he was trying to explain why theirs was less than ours would be. But I agree with Julie that that's where I think that's the sticking point. And if we lower that number, it would work well. So your suggestion has my support. My question was about the ridge. As I understood it, the ridge is, you're talking about, isn't the ridge is already protected. So that would be a relatively safe thing to take out since it's enjoying some protection. Am I incorrect?
It's not fully protected. So we would have to figure out a way to carve it up in our drawing. And, you know, I went around, I came at this from like an ecological approach of delineating ecological features, not based on what's protected or not. So the fact that it's protected, you know, we're designating this large area, it's protected, it doesn't then, you know, the size doesn't really mean a lot in those places. So what I was going to prepare for the town board would be calculations of the area that's protected or publicly owned, the area that is wetland or associated wetland buffers regulated by the town, and the area of floodplains within these areas. So to, you know, end up with like a rough calculation of the land that's not somehow under those regulations or protections.
Do you have any idea what the new percentage is going to be with those others cut out?
In terms of the total percentage of the town land?
The designated land, how much does it cut the percentage?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull up the final proposal.
Because if Rhinebeck's was half of ours, it doesn't cut it in half, right? They're smaller places.
I don't think we should be comparing ourselves to other towns that have different ecological features, which they've, designated for different reasons. It's kind of apples and oranges. And Michael's, he pointed out to, part of the reason they didn't designate other large areas in their town is because they're already part of the state park or the Roosevelt, property. And so they didn't bother to designate those areas. By the same extension, maybe we could just decide we're not going to designate the part of the ridge that is south of the road. What's the road? The Mountain Rest Road or
Mountain Rest, yeah.
Butterville?
Mountain Rest Road.
No. South of
I'm not looking at the map right now.
Ingrid, you gave the reason why you were gonna not include the Schwartz-Kill, but why was the Stony Kill considered? You would consider not including that?
I think of the areas that we've proposed for designation, we have the least amount of information about Stony Kill Woods contributing to its significance. And so, I think it just focuses the proposal on the areas where we have a stronger argument about their significance. And it's not that we can come back to that area later on, but this focuses on, and this kind of frames the proposal more tightly around the habitat connectivity through the town, which I think is a story that some of the town board members are interested in. All right, sorry, I was just going to look up if I had the acreages. The Stony Kill Woods, 535. So it's like we're cutting off a little over 2,100 acres from the total.
With those two combined, those two areas
combined? By taking out those two areas. So 9.
And what happens if you take out the part that is protected on the ridge otherwise?
Just a second. Let me finish this first. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong number. Wait, 134 minus. Okay, so this would bring the total acreage of proposed CEAs to about 7,900 acres. And out of 38%.
Yeah.
And let me show you a map. This is a map showing the CEAs with protected land and wetlands and floodplains. So I don't remember how to zoom in on this thing. I know where my zoom tools are. This is the road here where can you see my cursor? That's Mountain Rest Road roughly, where it cuts here. So you see like this part here, that is the Mountain House property up here. And then all of this here is protected. There's a little bit down here that's not protected, but so we could focus on this part on the northern ridge. And that would be approximately half of it. I don't know exactly what the acreage of that would be, but. So that would cut off probably about 2,000 acres more.
Ingrid, when you did the 38%, that was without cutting any of the ridge land?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's say if we did 7,900 minus. So that might bring us down to less than 30%, like 28%.
Another possible way to you know, present this is, let's say we went with a 38%, sort of odd to be talking about these this way, but you know, if a discussion of percentages comes up, we could, say that it's 38% and then explain what part of that, or, portion of that is the ridge, where we know, it's already sort of very limited in terms of development. You know what I mean? So it's such a, people sort of do think of it in a way that, so if we were to keep it in there, especially because it's really important, I mean, it's sort of, I think it almost weakens your argument, just because if you're, why are you taking it out? Just to placate people. So it's possible maybe that we would go with, keeping it in, but explaining how much of that 38% is the ridge, so
Yeah,
that
what I was planning on doing for tomorrow would be to just calculate what percent of these areas is protected or wetland buffer or floodplain.
I think you should leave the ridge in.
People don't want it. People don't want New Paltz to be closed for development, and this is what, that's that perception, perhaps, that if we do this, it's just gonna, and it's, I don't think I'm making this up, I think it came up at the meeting, that it makes it so people just think that we are completely out of our minds, and they don't want to even consider developing here. So yeah, so it's possible that
I think we
would not want to weaken our argument, though.
Yeah, I really think the first proposal you make should include the ridge. And then if they refuse it or decline it, then you can negotiate. But that's a negotiation that you keep as a second line.
I have a question to ask, and maybe it's something that's been said and I've missed it. If somebody owns a piece of property and it's been accepted, and they've gotten health department approval, everything, would this mean that then they couldn't build on their lot?
No, CEAs don't do anything to prevent development. You can develop in a CEA.
It is such an important point to continue to, people are mixing it up with conservation and protection, and it doesn't. All it says is there's something here you should be paying attention to when you plan your development.
Yeah.
It's a tool, it's an aid, it alerts.
It doesn't restrict the land use.
And I think what's good is that after Michael came, I think that was clear to the board. So I'm sorry, Ingrid, you said it's almost insulting. You said it multiple times, I heard you say it, but it seems hearing it from someone, someone else.
Yeah, it helps hearing it from a pro-development planning board chairman helps a lot.
Yeah.
No, he's really great. I think he's able to convey those ideas very clearly to people.
It just, so that I think they do get it now, that it doesn't prevent development. He said it.
The other thing, the point he made, which I loved, was even though the language in seeker it raises a red flag, which most people go, oh my gosh, that means stop, halt, do not go here. And he said, it's actually just, it gives you an alert. It gives you a heads up. It's not a red flag, don't do this. It's just a point taken that there's something there you should be thinking about, looking at.
I think hopefully it, helps people know that there's going to be people, especially in our town, who are going to give you a little bit of trouble if you don't take that harder look and answer some questions, before and be able to answer questions about for mitigation. It helps people get approval sooner because they will they'll know how to talk to us.
Yeah. It raises by having the information up front, it creates a more predictable process. It puts the issues up front that we are paying attention to. And so I think that's beneficial to everybody. But again, it's a language issue. I think that people just hear the term critical environmental, and I think it means you can't do anything.
What you're showing on the map now are the 4 areas that are in your new proposal.
This is the original proposal, just with a lot of stuff on top of it.
Oh, okay.
This is the yellow area is the Stony Kill Woods, and the orange area is the Slaughterkill wetlands here.
And since it's that pale blue, it's already wetlands, right? So
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that yellow part is, it's too bad we don't know. To me, this is the value of it, is it tells you what's there. And if we don't know that much about what's there, then it doesn't help us. We still have to go and dig for it and try to figure it out. So
Which color is Kleinkill?
Blue.
The dark blue?
This dark blue area kind of goes across the river and covers this part here.
So that's linking the ridge and then back over to the other parts, the purple and the red. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of a statewide forest corridor. But a lot of that area is floodplain. And, so it's, a lot of it is not, that particular one is probably doesn't have great development potential either for that reason.
People thought that in Houston, and then they went and drained the swamp and built the houses there, and then along came the hurricane. So,
yeah. So any further, my plan tomorrow evening is to present our final, our annual report very briefly to the town board, and then if we approve going forward with a slightly reduced proposal tonight, then I would explain that to them as well, and offer that we would bring this presentation to the planning board in January, and offer to discuss it there and hopefully find a way to move forward.
Ingrid, just, I'm thinking about in terms of negotiation or whatever, when people, often developers will come with this crazy plan, and then it's when they reduce it, the planning board or whomever thinks, oh, thank goodness, and then pass it. So another possibility is to hold off, or maybe just say that could be reduced as a way to maybe make people feel really good about it once it's smaller. But
Yeah, I don't think we should tell them it could be reduced first. Just present it the way it is. 38% is not that much.
that would be reduced already.
That's
though,
reduced.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's reduced already. So start with that one.
It's up to you guys.
Can I stop sharing this?
Julie has a good point. If you come back to where you were, and just say, you could offer, if you would like for us to take a good hard look at each of these areas again. I mean, you picked them based on data and facts and what's there. You didn't just whimsically pick, you know, certain places. So you need to go back and take a hard look at what supports, what's the underlying support for it. And you're telling us right now that maybe the Stony Kill one doesn't have the strongest support that the others do. So that might be, you know, that's, so you can talk about that later, but you could just say you're willing to go back and take a look at what could be done. Again, it's like other towns, we shouldn't compare because what they have is what they have, and what they evaluated, maybe they had to pay consultants and they didn't have a budget to do the whole town, you know, they did a portion of it, or, you know, so they chose a part. So that, you know, you can't account for why some place has one CEA and we have 6, or, you know, whatever. I mean, we've heard all these different things about there's too many and they're too large and all this. It's like, it is what it is. And
I think it's just also really important, like it's about to be 2021. You know, a lot of CEAs were designated in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just acknowledge that the field of like conservation science has advanced quite a bit in the last 30 to 40 years, that we now understand that conservation of our biological diversity isn't going to happen if we focus on a few small places.
Mm-hmm.
We need to conserve intact landscapes and connectivity between habitats. And furthermore, we're in a rapidly changing climate where our species and ecosystems are going to be shifting in ways we have no idea, cannot predict. And the only thing we can know for certain is that they're going to need to be able to move on the landscape if they're going to persist. And that those, for that reason, the fact that we have these intact corridors in our town that are important on a statewide level lends significance to them. And all we are asking is that the planning board consider the connectivity and integrity of those areas when they're looking at new development. We're not saying you can't develop in those areas. We're not saying, there is a new 100-foot buffer in those areas. We're saying, please pay attention to habitat connectivity of areas that have been identified as the most important place for biodiversity conservation in New York State, possibly the Shawangum Ridge, a statewide forest corridor of importance, a major floodplain forest area, a very large intact forest area, et cetera, et cetera. Like these areas we have data supporting why they're important, and all we're asking is the planning board to look at that information when new development is proposed in them.
I think what's great is
Can I
also. Oh, sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
Listening to the conversation and thinking about the video of the meeting that you attended on the CEAs, I was especially encouraged by David's clear shift. Maybe the right thing to do is to stick with what you've got and then just be prepared that if you get pushback, to have something in your back pocket. I think that that's not an unreasonable approach to take. Your argument is, convincing. Maybe it's just a big thing for them to swallow. So they've had some time. I wouldn't go in there, maybe you don't go in making concessions. Maybe you go in saying, this is the presentation. What are your thoughts now that you've seen this other presentation from, Woodstock and about Red Hook, and then let them push you. And if they push you and say, no, you're going to have to cut more, well, then we have an idea of how we could do that. But maybe conceding is unnecessary.
I like that idea too.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Julie, you're muted.
Thank you. You did a great job just explaining right now, I wish I could take that video clip and bring it somewhere else, to the people who need to see it. And that just that idea of the connectivity and the climate change and the you know, the need for biodiversity and all that we have and all we can give to, you know, our state in a way. You know, we can be a lot for our world, you know, and we're going to be having, you know, creatures coming, you know, during I guess they're coming up, right? So, you know, there's so much that I think there's so much education that the planning board members often they don't have. I think, you know, about this. You know, there's so much we could. So I think if we focus, as I was listening to you, I thought if we focus instead of negotiating and cutting and saying okay, you know, if we focus more on educating about why, you know, and just sort of pushing aside knowing that that they might have some impressions already and negativity toward it, but I think you can turn, you know, there's a way that maybe the approach should be to just try to turn them on to this idea. You know, I went to a tracking workshop and I'm changed, you know, years ago because I understood, you know, this idea of stepping stone habitats, right? And how there's, you know, it's all so important, not everything, but, you know, there's so many ways that we don't understand how even smaller habitats matter a lot, and that connectivity, if we can get that across to them, that's just a thought. If we can focus more on, you know, us being the people that can inspire them to learn more about why we would do this. So I don't know that that's been the focus yet. I don't know if it's been able to have been.
Well, it's, you know, it's a couple of things that when it first got presented, we had a big discussion and our attorney pointed out a lot of potential issues and that scared a lot of people. We also had members who said, we've already got wetlands law, we've already got cluster development law, we've already got steep slopes, you know, maybe we have enough protections. The problem is everyone was thinking of it as protection instead of just information, so that when a project comes before you, maybe instead of putting the building here, you might want to put it, you know, at a different corner, because you could stay away from that, you know, that part of something that was important. Like, you know what was there and know what you might want to try to, the developer would know and the planning board would know how to work with them on how to locate where the road goes or where the, you know, whatever goes. Just, you know, not saying don't build here, but saying, okay, if you're going to build here, here's some things that need to be kept in mind. And so, you know, think, because who knows? Otherwise, they don't know. All they know is they see, they might see water, they might see trees, they might see a steep slope, but they don't know, nobody knows the rest of this stuff. And you have to go really dig to find it otherwise. And not everyone's, you know, motivated to do that. So we don't want to be working, to me, the shame of it would be that we're working blind or ignorantly and doing harm that we could have easily avoided, you know, and still have a successful project. So.
And this shows the omission of wildlife. Wildlife are not in the laws. And so, you know, the corridors are really important. We have other beings that we're sharing the land with. And so I really do think that that is a compelling argument, Ingrid, that you just made. And I hope you're able to make it to people who don't know. I think there's a lot of ignorance.
I mean, I just want to bring up, you know, we've been working at this for a really long time, and we've tried to follow the best practices and like meeting with the planning board early on and sharing an initial proposal and discussing it and updating the proposal. And, you know, I just can't do this indefinitely. And so I'd like to try to put something forward that has a chance of passing. And what I'm hearing from our town board is that it's too large. And I think we need to respond to that. So
going down to 38% is enough right now.
I don't know
See-
what's enough. I mean, yeah, what,
Well, see if
How
that's
much-
acceptable to them. See if that's acceptable. Don't go any further until they tell you to. We got to be tough, Ingrid.
You don't want to lose your credibility. Why did you pick these in the first place? Is that something you can just throw out the window now? Or, you know, I mean, unless you have some really valid, there isn't enough data to really, like, it's not, you know, one of these is not the most data available. So what would we learn from it being the CEA? But I think you have to be, you know, data drives these decisions, and I mean, data should drive these decisions. Data should be what this is depending on, not, it's not preference or opinion.
And not only that, we're late coming to this, the whole thing. Everybody else did this a long time ago, and we think we're so hip and with it.
yeah, anyway, I don't know what to expect. I'm not really anticipating the planning board to have like a hallelujah moment. So I'm also not sure what the town board is expecting the planning board to do. It's not the planning board's role to establish CEAs. That's the town board's role. So
Good.
I think we should make our best effort and try to explain why these areas are important. If I could bring someone else to explain why, maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I can bring someone else. Maybe I can find another expert who's older and more compelling than me to
You know the guy that has
describe
the,
these areas. Maybe a male.
oh no,
Yeah.
don't say that, no. You know the guy though, Eric, he's the reptile guy who has I think he has a crocodile on his roof of his car, which is odd because it's not local, but maybe it's a snake.
Yeah.
You know him?
Yes.
You need him. You need to bring in a reptile. But yeah, I think I'm totally into this education idea, and I just want something I thought of when I was listening to you speak about the planning board, and you know, I probably Amanda would agree. There's a little tension between, you know, the planning board and the town board. I think because, you know, they, I don't know, feel like we sometimes, you know, go around them or something, or like the gateway, you know, I don't know, not all members were in favor of that rezoning. So, you know, I think that's part of what's going on, perhaps, like a skepticism, another thing that the town board's going to be doing that's going to affect them, like an unfunded mandate or something. But it's, you know, maybe they think it's going to take more of their time, you know, but either, you know, perception matters. Though I'm a big psychology person. I graduated with, you know, I got a degree in psychology, and I just love thinking about the psychology of this. And, you know, sometimes it's good to think about that if you really want something to pass, you know, if finding the way to, you know, move through the process while, you know, in a really respectful way, which I know you do already, but also giving people a chance to, I don't know, you know, get on your side, if that makes sense, rather than just sort of negotiating right away. And so if there's any ideas.
Well, this one is like a lot of things that, you know, you see all over town with all different boards and things, is like someone does a ton of work and then they come to the board and to whatever board, you know, and so here, I did this for you. And they're going like, we didn't ask for that. Like, we weren't involved with, you know, why,
Yeah.
you know, even like having Michael Dupre come, I think is a wonderful idea. It would be so much more wonderful if the planning board had said, we would like to hear from some planning board chair that's done this already. You know, let's invite someone, you know, or it would be so great if it was their idea to have him come. Otherwise, they're going to sit there with their arms like this, you know, going, yeah, well, that's your town and our town's, you know, I mean, even though he made some amazing points and said that it wasn't causing them problems and he saw it as a valuable tool, they may just feel like, well, that's you, and you're in Red Hook or wherever
Hyde
he was.
Park.
Okay. Woodstock, and I don't know. I mean, it would just, yeah, I think sometimes, in hindsight, but, to have asked, to have started off by saying, we're thinking about doing this project, and here's what it is, and here's what Seeker says about it, and this would be a good idea for our town. And probably right at the beginning, people would go, we got lots of code already that takes care of this, we don't need it. And, having to explain to them how it would be a useful tool for them and developers would have been, would be important. And I think we still need to do that. Maybe what we need is a developer who's worked with it and said that it didn't, what their experience was, if it was helpful or not. The big issue is it going to take more time and more money for the planning board and the applicants? And there was also concerns about small applicants, small projects. Like, oh, this is just gonna, they're gonna have to go do all these big studies and stuff. And they don't, because it's already there. We already, the CEA is already telling us there's what it's there, not, there might be something, go find out. It's like, the work's been done. You can look at your parcel and have someone help delineate what part of this bigger thing is on your specific parcel. Is it on your whole parcel, or is it just on one corner, whatever? Someone might have to help them with that, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I hope they'll be receptive and open to Michael's presentation and listen to what I have to say. Yeah. And I hope that the town board will figure out, what needs to happen to move it forward. If it means, creating a smaller working group with a planning board presence or something. I don't know. Again, I can't keep working on this indefinitely. I've worked on this for almost 2 years. Like, it's been, how long has it been?
Well,
yeah,
you've already
over 2
received some
years.
feedback, right? You got feedback already that it's too big. So you have to respond to that.
I think it was brought up that that's been one of the concerns, but I'm not sure that it was like this is a stake in the ground.
I would like to make a motion to focus our proposal on the 4 CEAs, the Shawngum Ridge, Wallkill, Quinakill Corridor, Clearwater Woods, and Plutarch Woods and Wetlands. And to suggest that we move forward right now with those 4, and that the other 2 proposed areas we think still merit designation. But that we recognize that it may be best to start off with a smaller proposal.
I second it.
I agree. And what I was going to say right before that is, Ingrid, what do you think we should do? And I'm happy to go along with what you think, since you've been doing this for so long.
And just to chime in, wasn't that part of the original plan that we put the Millbrook Preserve off on the side platter for later to be added in once we coordinate with the village? So this is part of the larger long-term strategy, no?
Yeah, that's a great point. We had talked about potentially adding that in some area around the Millbrook Preserve later on.
Yeah, what we talked about was that the town can't designate any of these areas inside the village limits. So the village EnCB is willing to start going through and providing those protection areas within the village limits, but we're waiting for the town process to conclude.
I'll just add something. I like the idea that, it can be said that the EnCB is not saying they're not important, but saying for now, this is a good start and an important step. And, it's not, those other 2 areas can certainly be added. And and you know, Neil, as you know, Ingrid, Neil has made this argument that let's start with one. And thankfully, I think I turned him away from just doing that, because he was like, we'll just do the ridge. Everyone wants to preserve the ridge. You know, sorry. But he's now, I don't think he thinks that is necessary, you know, or at least he hears the rest of the board wants to keep, you know, keep the original sort of intent to look at all these areas. And I think it would probably, Neil would see it favorably if we, you know, did some now and potentially some later, but just those cutting it, I think it does make sense.
I call the
Okay.
question.
Well, so just one other thing. If you only do one as an example to try to see how it works, we don't know when we might get a project in that one. It could be 2 months from now, it could be 10 years from now, you know,
Oh,
so that's.
I totally was not, he said it twice and I've tried to shut it down every time. So yeah, it's a terrible idea.
Okay, I call the question. Let's vote.
Okay, so yeah, I think we had a second. So all in favor,
Aye.
the motion? Opposed? Did everyone vote? This was unanimous?
Maybe some people are muted.
I put my hand up.
Okay,
I'm going to abstain.
I'm not a voting member, so.
yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay, thanks a lot. So I will bring that to the town board tomorrow. There's a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning with the building inspector, with Stacy, to discuss the wetlands law and the process for mitigating a violation, and with the Sporting Clays property as the case study, because the site plan was withdrawn in September and there's been no action to proceed on how to mitigate that violation or restore it rather. And I have a lot of questions about the law, which I tried to outline in a document that I've shared for that meeting, and I will send it around to all of you. Ted has agreed to also attend and help out with that. The meeting will be attended by Stacy, Mark Carabetta, the wetlands inspector. Jane Schonberg will be representing from the planning board, and I believe Neil and David will be participating, and Julie, I'm not sure if you'll be there or not. I did send you the invitation.
Yes, I could be there. What time is it? Sorry.
It's from 10 to 11 in the morning.
If you think it's helpful, I don't know. Are we already, or if
I think it may be fine if you don't, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's good that David and Neil will be there. I can't hear you, Ted.
Okay.
If Julie's there, that would make 3 town board members.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why it wasn't. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep. Good point. Okay.
I'll make sure I stay informed about it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, we'll try to produce notes from that meeting, but yeah, the law is just, it's kind of confusing how it's supposed to play out to correct this, a violation. And so we're really asking Stacy to interpret that and tell us how this process is supposed to play out and explain some of the different parts of the code, which refer to actions by the town board, referral to the planning board, and so forth, and figure out like who should be in charge at this point. And also the role of the wetlands inspector. Like, this is a kind of complex violation we're trying to fix. And, it seems like it would make sense for there the town to be consulting a wetland expert in deciding how to deal with it. So yeah, hopefully we'll learn a lot from that meeting. I hope it's not, the situation with our appeal is not going to make this a very awkward meeting. So. All right, I'm sorry. I know it's really late. Ted, would you like to give an update from the village?
Yeah, so we got a quick update. Our meeting was on December 8th, last week, our December meeting. Near full attendance. It was a good meeting. There was 1, 2, 3, really 3 issues that I'd bring to your attention as perhaps of interest with the town. The first one was the village planning board right now is going through an application from Floyd Niffen on building 2 houses on Millbrook Road, which abuts the Millbrook Preserve. There was a hearing. The public hearing was, I think, last night. There's members of the Environmental Policy Board that are taking an interest in it. It's unclear as to what you could actually do. The zoning's already there. It's residential housing that's being built, but because of its location and its characteristics, there are people that are concerned about it. B City Eco Landscaping. It's gotten some additional press too. It's a pretty neat project that they're working on to do some plantings and soil restoration in front of the village hall. There's plenty of opportunities to get involved if you want to. Last couple of meetings, there's been discussion of proposing regulations to ban or limit the use of leaf blowers for a variety of reasons. There's nothing drafted up yet, but perhaps by the next meeting there'd be language that we would be toying around with, making a recommendation to the village. Those are the main 3 things. We added an environmental researcher. Her name is Riley Poisson. She's a junior at SUNY. She volunteered to be an intern with us. We'll put her to work. And then the Garden Club had requested to get involved in that ecoscaping project, and we officially accepted their invitation and are reaching out to them. So we'll soon be collaborating with them on the Village Hall project. Those are the main things talked about at the Environmental Policy Board meeting. Next year, for 2021, our meetings will be on the second Tuesday from 5:30 to 7. It's a slight adjustment to what we've done in the past.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know leaf blower regulations are pretty common down in Westchester. See, when we work with communities down there, it seems to come up a lot. Okay, any questions or?
Does Ted, sort of report back ever about what this board feels about their things? Is that something they're interested in? Like, for example, how you guys feel about leaf blowers?
Every meeting that I go to, I give an update to the board I'm with as to what the other one is doing.
Right, right. Do you think, though, do you think that is it appropriate for anyone to give a thought about a topic that they're dealing with to lend support or whatever?
I think there's been a couple of examples where this kind of updating has turned into collaborations. I think the B City is one of them with Rose and Rachel. But if there's something you'd like me to pass on to them,
I wouldn't know. I mean, it's just whatever this, if the board has opinions about any of the things, it's nice to think that they would be interested in what our board. I would think that they would be interested. So.
Yeah, we've got an alumni here from the village's environmental policy board that decided to step up and be part of the town board here. So the word's getting out.
Okay.
Yeah, did you guys ever do it like a joint? I thought there was some talk about doing it one time a year or something.
Yeah, so last year, 2019, I think we made a commitment to do one. We did that, or maybe we did two. 2020, we had made the commitment to do 2 meetings, and our first joint meeting was, like the second week of March. And I don't know if anything's happened since then, but we haven't had an opportunity to do a joint meeting since then.
Yeah, I was realizing that when I was going back over the minutes. And it would be good to have it, at least we should, I think, try to plan a joint meeting over the winter time, maybe in March again, and figure out how to do it over Zoom. Maybe we just, I don't know. We can talk about that, Ted.
Yeah. I think the village's environmental policy board would be interested in that.
Yeah. Great. Should we move on? Janelle, do you want to provide the Climate Smart update? You shared the annual report.
Yes, I emailed that out. I don't need to go through that line by line, but just so you all have it, you can kind of see an overview. Just a couple highlights. With the Climate Smart Book Club is continuing to meet every month. We just had the joy of meeting with John Wackman with his new book, Repair Revolution, and it really is a good book. I ended up buying another copy to give as a gift because it really covers a lot of territory, more than I expected he would attempt to do in the book. So recommend that. And then our next book that we selected, I'm just gonna grab that exact title for you, is All We Can Save: Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis. And it's a number of essays, poems all by women, and put together as kind of a compendium. And it sounded like it was getting good reviews, and really talking about leadership that is rooted in feminist kinds of ideals of compassion, connection, creativity. So anyone's welcome to join us at any time for these book clubs. We generally meet the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock. And then on the meetup schedule, our last meetup was fun. We ended up having a panel on tree planting, and the highlight really being the fact that the DEC tree sale begins beginning January. So we really wanted people to understand, how to go about planting and planning for planting seedlings from the DEC sale. And our next one that we have, the first Tuesday in January, is about energy navigators. We have a panel of energy navigators that will be on board to discuss their program and all the ways that they can help folks. We have the ongoing projects of the NRI. Maybe Amanda, you'd like to give a summary of that, where that's at?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who's spent so much time. You've spent this year 70 hours on this project, and probably, tore your hair out over some of these, that horrible, whatever that thing they sent us to review the document on. But so thank you so much. The consultants are taking all of that input that was provided and making their final revisions to the maps, and hopefully we get a much smoother document this next time around. But the next thing I think we expect is that there'll be a presentation to the town board in March-ish timeframe to show them where we are with this project and get any thoughts they might have on it, and then have a final rollout that would be for the general public before we try to put it up for adoption by the town board. So it's moving along. It's it's an amazing document. All of y'all have read it. It's quite comprehensive. So hopefully it's going to flow better and not be so chunky and clunky. But that one's going really well. And on our greenhouse gas inventories, we have a student intern working with us. He's a high school student, actually. Well, he's one of those juniors, freshmen, like he's doing that junior year at the college, whatever. But so he's helping us update the local government operations data from the town, and then we'll get into the village. So at some point we'll have something new to show you that shows, where the town has or hasn't made progress on their greenhouse gas emissions, their use of utilities. And I'm sure we showed you guys the flood mapping project, and you've taken it to a few other. We're continuing to take that on the road and see how the town might want to adopt that map. I just attended a flood regulation webinar from DOS this morning or this afternoon, and apparently those maps can be the FEMA ones are the basic one, the basis, but you can expand beyond that and include the tributaries and other things, and use those for land use planning, because the whole goal is to not put something where it's going to be a hazard or a danger to the property or the health and safety or the use of nearby properties because of it. So yeah, so that's a really valuable thing that we got given to us. And once again, we're going to be bringing it to people, and they're going to go, why are you here? Who asked for that? But it's hopefully we'll be able to show people it's something of use. So yep.
And that flood mapping presentation is now on both the town and the village website, including the animated slide that really kind of shows over time the extent of flooding with both fluvial and fluvial flooding.
If you would like support in that effort to try and officially adopt that mapping, let us, think about how we can help.
That would be good. Well, let's, we have our next task force meeting on Monday. We can talk more on Monday about that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, we definitely would. That would be really helpful, Ingrid. And also both ICLEI and the Woodwell people are saying, get back to us if what are your next steps? What are you thinking of doing? So I think we need to think about what proposals we would want to make. And how to frame those and how to support them. So yeah, cool.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one other piece of news, just circling back a little bit to when we were talking about John Wackman's book on Repair Revolution, he told us that Climate Smart Communities has just added that as another element to get points on. So that's great because we have it solidly in place. So we just have to submit the evidence and we can check off another one says being done. So that's good.
Great. Yeah. DEC just released 19 actions, 11 new ones. So I guess 8 that were updated in the Climate Smart portal. So there are a bunch of new Climate Smart land use actions were added.
They didn't add anything on refrigerants yet though, right?
I don't know. I'm not involved with that stuff. But I helped write one of the Climate Smart land use ones.
Okay. All right. Well, and just I do send out that newsletter at the beginning of every month. So be watchful for that. It always has the latest and all the Zoom links too.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I know it's really late. Just to wrap up, as I've expressed, I'm hoping to step down as chair sometime early next year, and Rich has offered that he would serve as chair, and I think it's still a little bit TBD whether he would do that on his own or want to have a co-chair. He is very, very busy right now with his, the Catskill Aqueduct project, and cannot start taking this on until March at the earliest. So I will continue to serve as chair at least until March, and we'll try to, continue communicating with Rich about it. But I just wanted to give that update. And I am, planning to continue serving on the board as a member. And then our meeting date. So we've been, I think because of the change in the ZBA secretary, Alana, that there was a conflict with the meeting date that was previously used by the ZBA, and that they now need the second Wednesday, which was our meeting date. So they've asked us to move to third Wednesdays. And I just want to make sure third Wednesdays will work for everyone moving forward for next year.
Do you know why they felt there was a conflict between ZBA and EnCB on that date?
Well, we're all using the same Zoom account. You can't have 2 meetings going on at the same time.
Because CWASP just moved their meeting to the Wednesday because of ZBA.
So which Wednesday?
The same one you're proposing.
Well, our meetings are already set up, so CWASP cannot take that date. Our meeting, we had already claimed that time.
I'll let the chair know he had to do it because he's on both of those. He's both on the ZBA and on CWASP, and they, and I'll let him know.
Yeah. At least that's what I was told. I mean, I was told that we would have the third Wednesday. Sorry for that.
So January.
No, it's possible that that CWASP maybe could meet before our meeting, if they're done by 7:30.
Well, that's a real possibility. If they
Yeah.
start at 6 and be done by 7:30, that
That may be what they're planning.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the next meeting is January 20th then, 7:30?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's all I've got for now. Any other announcements? I know we would typically be going out maybe to celebrate the end of the year. Sorry that we can't do that.
Look out the window. It's something.
Everyone go get a glass.
There you go.
I'm ready.
We should have all brought a glass.
I think that's water, Ingrid.
Yes.
I don't have a glass. I have a bottle of vitamins.
Vitamin D.
Be well, everyone.
Happy
Yes.
holidays. I'll
Yeah.
move to
Stay
adjourn.
safe. Stay safe.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Happy
Yes,
holidays.
happy
everyone.
holidays.
All right.
Thanks,
Did we have a
everyone.
second for that? Adjourning? Kenji, thank you. All right, meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye, everyone. Have a great
Bye.
end of your year.
You
Yes, you
too.
too.
All of you too.
Peace and
Okay.
love to all.
Be safe. Be safe.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.